Hello everybody and welcome back to another video react. Today we're going to be listening to Daryl here. He's a local here from the UK and he believes that the United Kingdom is turning into a dystopia, that wages are very low, living conditions, the health system and so on, the tax system. He believes that these are no longer what they're supposed to be for a first world country. So let's listen to what he has to say and we'll just pitch in.
This one is just straight off the cuff, guys, talking about what it's like to live in the UK. I'm from the UK, I'm from Edinburgh, Scotland, and I live in Edinburgh, Scotland. I'm working full-time for a bank, and I am earning only £19,200 a year after tax.
That's low, that's very low. And that's kind of the normal rate for that type of work here. Office jobs are not paid as much as they used to be. And since 2022, the tax-free allowance has not increased as it should have, and they've all been frozen. They were supposed to be frozen until 2026, but I think the Chancellor just communicated that they will be until April 2028, which is a bit tragic to think about it. But after all the things that have happened economically to this country after Brexit, and with the massive exodus of working people, right? So the working class, a lot of them were foreigners. They probably did not expect as many of them to go back to their own countries after the Brexit, and that has drastically impacted the economy. So bad to the point at which some goods are no longer available in stores and so on, because there's just nobody there to work the jobs and prepare them and make them and plow the fields and so on. And it's probably gonna be longer than 2028. That's just hopeful thinking in my mind right now, and I've worked for the tax institution, for the taxman, so I can tell you for sure that things aren't looking as good as these people would want you to think they are. But let's hear Daryl here, because I think he might have some good pointers if he started off like that.
And national insurance. The average salary when I was born in 1987 was about £19,200. I am earning the average salary in 2024.
And that average salary is now the minimum wage, but the difference of time, the span of time is so great between them that it just feels like something very wrong happened in that span of time. Something very wrong.
Almost 2025. I'm only earning the average salary in the UK in 1987. Yes.
That was before I was born.
The average house price in 1987, the year I was born, was that.
Yep.
The average salary is that. Today in the UK, the average salary is this. And
about that, yeah.
In the UK, the average house price is this.
It's massive, 200 plus, yeah. It's almost 300,000. Bro, 300,000 for a house. And that's not even like a standalone unit. Most of the times it's like a terraced house that's got an exorbitant price to it. Maybe not 300,000 like that one, but about 160, 180, which is still massive compared to the wages. There's absolutely no chance for you on normal wages to be getting that house without a mortgage that's absolutely going to destroy you financially over time. So it's just easier to rent. You also give some of the responsibility away to the landlord if something gets messed up. I don't know. Like for example, this house I live in has a basement, and in the area where I am, there is an issue with heavy rainfall and water infiltration and so on. That damage is the responsibility of the landlord to fix it, not mine. If I would have owned this house, if I would have mortgaged this house, I would have had to pay for fixing all of that. The roofs suffer damage a lot of the times because of the weather conditions, right? They just wear out, and replacing that would cost a fortune. Literally, in this economy, it will cost a fortune. So sometimes renting is better than actually owning.
And I was absolutely shocked. So yes, old timers or the baby boomers in this country, they will say, I worked a lot, and I paid for my house. But yeah, it was a lot easier to buy a house.
A house back then was like 40K, and their average wages were like 19 something, whatever.
Back in the 70s, in the 80s, and the 90s, compared to what it's like nowadays. So I'm happy to be from Scotland. I had a very nice upbringing, free education. We have kind of
Scottish people pay more in tax than the rest of the United Kingdom. Their percentages are usually higher, ranging from like 21% to 46, I think, or something like that. So they pay more than the rest of the United Kingdom, whereas in the rest of the country you got 20%, 40%, stuff like that. They pay extra 5%, extra 1%, and the education system is free. It does not cover the rest of the country, just the Scottish territory. So,
a good free healthcare system. It's not really free. It used to be a lot better than what it is.
The healthcare system is not free. That's a misconception. You pay taxes for it. It runs on tax money. And lately it's been running out of money and spending way too much money, and the services provided are substandard. The staff isn't there most of the time because they don't have enough staff, and even if there would be an availability of qualified people, they probably wouldn't employ them, because lately it seems like everybody's advertising for jobs being available, and nobody receives the call. Nobody's actually employing. They're just advertising for jobs. There are some legal implications there, and companies that have vacant positions are supposed to advertise for them. There are some legal constraints. I'm not going to go into it, but it seems like they're doing that. They're advertising for the jobs, but they're not actually employing anyone
today. But yes, the point of this video today is to explain why I've decided to leave the UK. It's just, it's not affordable here. If you want a high standard lifestyle, if you want to live by yourself, have a car, work full time but for not too long, if you
he's already gone too far with this. Half of what he's saying is fiction, because it's just not possible anymore to live alone and rent a house alone. The lowest amount that you would be paying is somewhere around £700 for a house that's unfurnished, and it's not luxurious. That's a terraced house in an area that's less populated, so you're not in one of the big cities. Don't think you'd be in one of the big cities, because if you want a house rented by yourself in one of the big cities, either one of them, it's going to be about £1,200. That's about a full wage for someone, right? So you make about £1,200, £1,400. You would not be able to afford to rent a house alone in one of the big cities. You cannot under no circumstances afford that, because that's just the rent, without the bills, without the council tax for the house, And depending on the zone where the house is, the council tax will be higher or lower. But that's usually about another 120 pounds a month. Water costs, right? Depending on the type of, whether you have meters or not, you're paying yearly or you're paying monthly. The costs may vary anywhere from, I don't know, 150 a year to 250, depending on your situations and consumption rate and so on. Gas is absolutely astronomically expensive at this time. Same with the electrics, because they use gas to make the electrics go. So most of the time they're burning fossil fuel in order to get the electricity to run, which is absolutely atrocious. I think some nuclear power plants would have sorted that problem out a long time ago, but then again, they do pose a little bit of a risk. But I think the risk is mitigated considering how much you can actually gain from that. But yeah, I believe it was a decision that the locals probably voted against. I don't really know whether they had the option for it or not, or whether it was a decision from up top that said, no, let's not do that. It's just not happening. Not enough, at least. Not enough. There should be more of them, and that would save a lot of money. And then everything could go electric and you wouldn't need that much gas. You would completely disconnect from other nations' resources, right? And the control would be back with the people of this nation. Well, then again, that's just my opinion. It could have been handled way better. Solar panel farms, windmill farms, something, bro, something. There needs to be something. Yeah. Let's keep going. Let's see what else he has to
Want
say.
to retire early, the UK is not the place. It's ridiculously expensive here. The average salary now is this. Again, like, that is not.
When he says the average salary, 28k, that's not what most people get. Okay, that's not. Most people get around the 20,000, 23,000 mark, right? If you get 25,000, you're happy. If you get 27, then it's absolutely amazing for you. But usually it's about the 23,000 mark. And that's what most of the population of the country lives on.
Enough.
Which is like 1987.
That is not enough for people to live a high standard lifestyle in what's supposed to be a first world country.
Supposed. Keyword
This is
supposed.
not a first world country. This is a dystopia pretending to be a first world country that has a very low standard. The crime rate's getting higher. Illegal immigration or illegal migration, whatever you want to call it, is getting higher. We have politicians that don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to fix anything. They just make.
It's not just a few of the politicians, it's all of them that seem to have absolutely no clue what they're supposed to be doing. I swear, since the old lady left us, the entire nation's been going down. Everything's been going down. Nothing seems to work anymore. Nobody seems to care anymore, especially people at the top that are supposed to be leaders for this nation. They seem to be interested only in their own affairs and businesses and whatever. They're skimming off the top a bit more than they should. It feels like the levels of corruptions have skyrocketed. Crime has skyrocketed. And everything else is just plummeting, from wages to living standards, healthcare, and so on.
Things worse. We have a prime minister in office now who just exacerbates all the issues that we've got, doesn't bother to actually address them and fix them, just makes them worse.
Yeah,
There is
they're
no
making things worse.
hope for this country, the UK. This place is done.
I think that's a bit too much. I think there is still hope. Nothing kills hope. Absolutely nothing. There isn't a single thing in the entire universe that can kill hope. It is probably the strongest force that has ever existed. And there is still hope for this country and this nation, but not under current leadership. Maybe people will have an awakening, and they'll demand the changes that need to occur for this nation to actually move forward instead of stagnating or turning into a worse situation than it is. Let's see, because that's something that only time can tell.
This place, the UK, doesn't matter where, Scotland, England, Wales, Northern Ireland, this is not an up and coming country. The UK has had its glory days. It's had its highs. Probably the best time in this country
200 years ago.
a working adult was probably when I was born in the 80s and the 90s, maybe even the early 2000s. But as things are now, with the cost of living and all the issues that we are facing here, it doesn't matter if you're British or not. If you're living here in the UK and if you're working here full time, you already know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And it's really important that you know, well, for me, I'm not going to just continue living and working in the UK, earning what I earn, paying what I'm paying for rent,
just to survive,
groceries, bills, you name it. The prices
so
are
that's
going
just
up
for survival. Literally, if you are on the minimum wages, you're not living, you're surviving. And it's absolutely not enough. As he said, for what considers itself a first world country, it is absolutely not enough. And the working conditions are not as good as they used to be. And I've been here for 7 years. And even in that short span of time, I could see things deteriorating rapidly. It just seemed to get worse and worse. The wages are the same, as he said, from previous years, and things have just ceased to, increase as they should have. Everything is out of balance, the work, wages, life balance, they're just awful. Right now, you need to struggle not only to keep a job and to do that for minimum wages, but also to find something on the side of that, whether it's another part-time job or a hobby like me that can actually bring you a little bit of money. But you need to do something extra because you need extra, especially if you have kids like me. Daryl here, he's living solo, he's alone. He has not invested yet in a family, but all people want to have that, right? To a degree. I mean, at least to live with someone, with your partner, and maybe have 1 or 2 kids. But right now, having the kids and doing all of that is just it's insane. If you do what I've done, you'll feel it both financially, emotionally, and physically, because it is draining. And the way the system works here, the postnatal period of time that you're paid for, right? It's not like in all other countries where you get a year or 2 years maybe, like it is in Romania, where you get 80% of your wages. Here, after, I don't know, depending on the company that you work for, some of them will give you 1 month, some of them will give you 3 months, some of them will give you 6 months, in which they pay you full wages or half or whatever they consider they should. There's not really a law constricting any of that, and what the government pays you after is not substandard. It's worse than 1987, about £600 a month for a mother with a child to live off of, which is absolutely atrocious. That's not the sign of a first world country under any circumstances. It's not.
I love driving. I have a driving license. I don't have a car. Why? Well, because I
You
live in
can't
the
afford
city.
it.
I don't really need a car, but it would be really nice to have a car.
You can't afford it. That's why he doesn't have it. Not only that, you have the taxes, you also have the insurance, which is exorbitant, especially for new drivers, which is a form of discrimination that nobody seems to be bothered about or do anything about. Because they seem to talk about it being based on experience, but if you take a look at which people are actually having the most accidents, it's probably not gonna be them, not gonna be the new starters. It's probably gonna be the older folk that don't actually, that shouldn't be driving anymore and still do it. Yeah, they can barely get into the car and out of the car, and the reflexes are probably delayed by 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds already at a very low speed. Imagine at a higher speed.
If I got a car, I would have to pay, well, for the car, for the insurance, for the road tax, for the maintenance, and I don't even have a parking space, so I would have to pay for a parking permit.
Exactly. You can't even,
So
most of the
putting the
time
car,
in the UK, you can't even park in front of your own house. Like for me right now, in front of this house, there's a double yellow line without any reason. There's absolutely no reason in the world why there should be a double yellow line there, but it is. And sometimes the neighbors will park there and they'll find fines in the morning. I mean, it's a street that leads into the compound of a former mill, which has been turned into flats. There's enough room for you to park on the sides and for people to still be able to come and go without any issues, right? Exactly where my house is, there's a curb like this that goes around and then goes into the complex. So there's a parking space for the neighbor next door. Yeah, and the parking space dips out of the street like this, so the street has an actual curvature to it. And then the parking space is after, outside of the street. And there's still a double yellow line there that has absolutely no reason for existing there, because there's no other street coming in, or it just doesn't exist. It's not an intersection, it's not. They just dumped it there. Probably it was a financial decision at some point to make some money off of the people that have no parking spaces. Because to be honest, all of these road taxes and all of these taxes, like the ones in the greater cities, in, you know, like congestion charges, ULEZ taxes, and so on, they all seem to be very, very predatory. Very predatory.
that's 4 big payments I need to make every year.
Every year or monthly, and it will cost
So
you even more.
for me, based on the salary that I'm earning, I cannot afford to live in the city by myself and have a car and have a high
And that's working for a bank, bro. Working for a bank and you're getting paid minimum wage, you're getting substandard pay.
standard lifestyle, for example, going to the gym, doing activities, everything costs money, right? So, what does that leave one to do? Yes, we need money.
With the weather conditions in this country, you don't really have outdoor alternatives to all of that, because it's raining 80% of the time. Especially in some zones, like the area I'm in right now, has its own microclimate. It rains every day, bro, every day. Every day. If you have a day without rain, you're like, wow. You put a pool outside, you know, you fill it up with hot water and you sit in it. But that happens very rarely. I think in total this summer, there have been like 3 days of full sun and maybe 5 in total with some sun. Other than that, it's been atrocious. This year has been awful. The weather's been awful.
Some people don't need to work, and that's great for them, but if you're like me, you need to earn a living.
Yep.
You need to go out and earn money to pay for your
Survive.
life. Now,
To survive.
when you're working, you shouldn't be working just to survive. If you can excuse me, I'm a bit slow in this video. I'm just shocked at what I've been seeing recently. One should not be working full time in what's supposed to be a first world country just to survive.
Just to pay bills. Just to make it to tomorrow.
Most people
He's right.
that work in
He's
this
absolutely
country,
right.
they cannot even save money.
Save money,
So
that's a
after
joke,
you
man.
paid
Nobody
your
saves
rent and
money.
your bills and all your fees,
You're left with
even
unpaid
if you've
things.
made cuts, for
So after you've paid everything you needed to pay for this month, you're left with unpaid things that you're going to deal with next month. That's how it is right now.
example, you've decided to stop paying for Disney Plus or Netflix or something like
All
that.
of them. Had to cancel all of them, just cannot afford them anymore.
Even if you're just paying for the necessities, even after paying for those, you have literally nothing left
Yep.
to enjoy. Now, whose fault is this? For what's become of this country
Everybody's fault.
with the cost of living? I'm not going to point fingers and point at one person, of course. Is it the government's fault? It may
Somewhat.
not be the
50%.
government's fault for everything.
It's everybody's fault when such a failure economically occurs. It's everybody's fault. First of all, it's the fault of those governing and leading the country for not providing solutions, because you've seen the scenes and scenarios running through the parliament and government of this country, and the decisions that they keep making against the population of this country, tax increases, all sorts of stagnations in various systems that should have, alleviated all of these issues over time. And it's also the fault of the population for continuously voting the same stereotypes, the same archetypes of leaders that do not have any of their interests in mind. And first of all, that's what happens when all of your politicians are rich people. They don't really care about you. They don't even understand your problems. For them, they're just numbers on paper and they don't really care about it. At the end of the day, they're still gonna go and enjoy themselves. Life's easy for them. They don't really care that much. It's not a pressing issue for them what you eat, what you drink, where you sleep. Just think about it. This country has so many veterans, for example. People that have been in the service of this country that are living off the streets. That's not a sign of a first world country. Under any circumstances, that's not a sign of a first world country. If you can't take care of those that have taken care of you. That's absolutely atrocious. And I've seen it a lot because I've lived in the big cities, and I can tell you that it's absolutely there. It's right in your face. You cannot deny it. Unless you're living on Downing Street, right? And then you don't really care about the rest of the population. You made it, you know what I mean? And looking at all the leaders from the past 7 years since I've been here, there have been no leaders. And for the past 7 years, this country has had no leaders. They've just had these puppets that have only existed to push agendas and not really do anything for the actual common folk, for the population. At least that's my opinion, You can always leave yours in the comments. Don't forget to hit that subscribe. Go show Daryl here some love. You can find him on YouTube as Daryl Solis. I'll put some links in the description, because I think he's got some very valid points here. And it's kind of pointing out to a lot of issues and a lot of the reasons why people are just bouncing. They're abandoning ship. Let's hear them on.
But they are in a position to fix these issues. They don't need to magically make these issues disappear, but they need to at least help people. Recently, in the UK, they have took away a certain benefit from a certain group of people who are pensioners with disabilities. And this benefit that the UK government has
Yeah.
taken from them is heat.
Yeah, it's that one with
So you've
like
got
warm house and
Old
stuff like that.
pensioners.
The government used to subsidize some money to certain people that hit a specific threshold to ensure that they would have a warm home during winter. I didn't even know that's gone away. Yeah, that's a bit tragic, because most British people, and by this I mean the elderly, cannot actually afford on their pensions to keep their houses warm during winter, so they suffer in silence. And there have been lots of cases of deaths due to hypothermia. Lots of cases. And that shouldn't happen in any country, regardless of whether you consider yourself a third world country or a first world country. That should not happen. Ever. And yet here we are. It is happening.
With disabilities who don't earn a lot. They're on state pension. They've been unable to work and save a lot of money for their pension. They may not have private pension. They have what they have. And winter is coming here in the UK. And winter is long. And winter is very cold. And people need heat. These people need heat in their homes. The government have taken it away.
Yeah.
They've decided to make cuts, and they've chose to take away this benefit where they provide funding for heating these people's homes during the winter, and they're not getting it anymore. That is not a government I want to pay tax to. The amount of tax that we pay in the UK is quite high. It's quite high, even compared to other countries like Australia and the USA. I'm taxed 20%, that's income tax, 20%. So for every £100 I earn, they take £20 away. Plus national insurance, which is basically, if you're American, national insurance is like your social security. So
More or less, because I don't know if it's understandable from what he's saying right now, but here in the UK you have a tax-free allowance. Everybody has that, and right now it's at £12,570, and it's been there since 2022 ending. As I said, it's gonna be like that till 2028. It's not gonna increase at all, but you're only taxed on what you earn over that amount. But don't think you're taxed after you've earned that amount. That's not the way it works, at least not for pay as you earn. So PAYE, the way it works is the amount that you need to pay tax on, it's split on the months and you pay monthly for it, right? It's taken straight off from your paycheck before you even see it. All right, and he's right, 20% of that is a lot of money. I mean, what are we doing? American gangster? 20% is the street level. That's what the government wants as well. It's a bit much if you come to think about it. Out of every £100, £20 to be given for services that keep failing, for systems that do not work. And on top of that, you have a million other taxes for the same thing, just named differently. It's atrocious.
I pay about 7% national insurance, so that's 27%. So they take £27 for every £100 that I earn. So when you add it all up, it's quite a lot.
Yeah.
So when I'm looking at my paycheck and I look at how much they've taken, That's quite a substantial figure. That is an amount of money that I could actually do something with. No, I don't mind paying tax, but at rates that high,
No, we're okay with even paying tax at rates higher than that, as long as that money is used with a purpose. If that purpose serves everyone, it's not a problem with paying taxes. The world works on taxes. The governments, the country, every single country in the world functions on taxes, except probably, I don't know, some Arab countries where they just don't need to pay any more taxes, right? But other than that, every other nation works on taxes, because you have the infrastructures that has to survive. You have the public services that need to survive somehow. They need to be paid, right? Those people need to be paid. All of those things, the infrastructure work that needs to be done, that money has to come from somewhere, right? The thing is that what I see less and less is governments investing in things that can actually earn back money, right? Not just for the tax institutions, but for the people paying those taxes. Why isn't your money invested to bring you a return? I just don't understand why not. I don't see it. I never see that. Why isn't it happening? Why aren't there like state-owned businesses that rank in some money? You know what I mean? What's happening?
it's quite concerning, especially when you're living in a country where they're making cuts like taking vulnerable people's heating away.
It's tragic. That truly is tragic.
So the UK is going downhill. This is not a good country to live in. It's not a good country to actually grow up in and work. The best thing you can do, if you're British, born here, schooled here, if you're young and working, especially if you're ambitious and adventurous, the best thing you can do is get out of the UK. Now, I know what it's like to live in other countries because I have lived in other countries. I've lived in Japan for about almost 9 years. I have lived in the USA as well for a short time. But because I've spent a lot of my life in Japan, things are not perfect. No country is perfect. Absolutely not. Japan is not
Sure.
perfect. But if I compare Japan to the UK when it comes to standard of living and
They have better standard of living, better services. You do pay for some of them. They're not free. They're not just taken out of your taxes or wages. Like, from what I understand, in Japan, the health system, you pay for it. It's like a monthly tax. It's like you pay some kind of health insurance, right? But the services are way better. Doctors are better. And the taxes overall, from what I understand, are lower in Japan. So they probably have one of the lowest taxes on wages out of the whole world, probably. That's at least what I know, because I have some friends that have lived in Japan for a very long time, and teachers and stuff, because that's probably the easiest way of getting into Japan on a good, decent wage, as a teacher.
how much you can earn and what they deduct from your paycheck. When I was working in Japan, they deducted about 10% income tax. That's half
There you go.
of what
There
I
you
pay.
go.
And I was earning more actually at the time. So I was making a lot of money in Japan. Healthcare is not free there, but the healthcare system is very good. You're not waiting months to see a doctor in Japan.
Like it is here.
You are paying probably about £100 to £200 per month on health insurance, but you are getting top quality healthcare quickly when you need it. Not only that, the standard of life in Japan is far higher than that of the UK when it comes to safety, when it comes to cleanliness of the streets. I'm not saying their
not
government
go
is
there.
perfect, but they make a lot of
To walk out of your house on a Saturday morning and go through the city, you are just hopping across what has happened the previous night. And that's not the only problem. It seems like there are bins on the street, one every 5 miles or something like that. I don't know what is happening with that. I mean, even where I come from, it's every 300 meters you have a bin on a pole or whatever it is, you know, electrical lighting. Which here I have not seen it. It's like nobody cares about that. About
Good
keeping the
decisions
streets
that
clean.
make sense. Their infrastructure is incredible. They have low prices for food and eating out.
Don't get me started on that. Eating out here is impossible. I'm happy to say that I can cook at a very high level, you know, a restaurant level, and a very diverse knowledge when it comes to, you know, like recipes and stuff. I can make a lot of things from sweets and cakes and all of that stuff to, I don't know, poached salmon or whatever, you know. I can make all of that in-house, you know, from soups to sauces to steaks to whatever. I can make all of that at home, and that's really good if you can do that. But if you're someone that needs to eat out because either you don't know how to cook, right, or you don't have the option of doing that, because there are people that are living with other folks in the house, and if there's like 7 people in that house, not everybody gets the chance to cook every day, right? Because there's just not enough time in the day. And if you need to eat out, it's going to be very expensive. You're probably going to be living on pot noodles, which are tasty but not very healthy.
So a lot of people eat out in Japan, like almost every day. It's very common for people to just go to a nice restaurant,
That's
eat
not
some
possible
nice
here.
food. There's all different kinds of restaurants.
In the area where I'm in right now, there are restaurants that only open over the weekend because nobody can actually afford it. They cannot afford to hold the business open every day of the week. They only open over the weekend. And not every weekend. I have seen them close lately, probably 2 weekends at least out of every month.
They're not in the UK. No. If you're eating out every day in the UK, you must be rich.
You're rich, bro.
Because going to a restaurant
Exactly.
here in the UK will cost you, if you're just ordering one main with a side and a drink.
Give me 1 second because I think I've done something to the cable of the headsets.
That's going to cost you
Oof. Technical difficulties.
about $50. And they add a 10% service fee. Yeah, so you're paying about £44, about $54 by yourself to eat. In Japan, you can eat good food at a nice restaurant
£10.
for less than half that.
What about £10?
I remember
you can eat for
literally
about £10
paying
if you're smart and know where to go.
about
Don't get me wrong, you have options here for eating stuff, you know, like not actually eating out, but you know, some takeaway and stuff like that. That's cheaper, you know, within £10 you can have a meal, a decent meal. Even ordering in for like 2-3 people in the house, you can £20-25 you can order something in, but don't expect it to be like something extraordinary, you know. Some Chinese takeaway, it's not gonna be that expensive, but still £25-30 every single day, it's a lot. Yeah, if the cost of groceries weekly stands somewhere at about £50-70. If you're alone, probably about 50. If you live with, you know, your partner and you have kids and stuff, 70 to 100 a week for groceries and stuff. But that, of course, it includes you cooking at home like I do. So
£8 for dining in a restaurant in Japan, and that's including a drink. Yeah, so going out to eat out doesn't break the bank.
when I came here 7 years ago, the prices on food were way lower, and with about £100, you'd fill a basket at a supermarket, and you'd have, I don't know, half a month of what you need. But now the same amount of money barely gets you through the week, which is very bad, very bad.
In Japan. It does here though. So what does that leave you to do? That just leaves you to go to the supermarket a lot, cook. I like cooking, but it's just nice
Exactly.
to eat out sometimes, you know, especially if you're working long hours.
I don't even remember the last time we ate out. I mean, me and my girl and my little ones. I just don't remember the last time. I think it was almost a year ago when we moved in this area. And right now I'm in between jobs. It's not from the lack of trying, because I have been applying to everything that I am qualified for, regardless of the amount of pay they provide. And you just don't get any calls back, and it seems like I'm not the only one. We've survived so far, but it's getting more and more difficult, and we're probably gonna have to eventually move from this area. Don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful area, it's a calm, peaceful area, but economically it's a dead area. The house next door to me has not had people rent it in over a year. Nobody's touched it. It's true that the owner does ask an exorbitant price for the area. It seems like some people are just completely disconnected from reality, but that's another statement. The thing is, it has gone from one owner to another about 3 times already, and still nobody lives in it. And that also increases the cost of heating for me. But it is what it is. As I said, in the areas, there are certain areas in the United Kingdom which are absolutely economically dead. Nothing's happening there. There aren't any businesses, industries, nothing, right? And even if you do manage to get remote jobs, which is what I have done for the past 5 years, nowadays it seems like even though they want to hire people on remote jobs because there are less costs for the business, less costs of renting an office, of running it, and so on, they still want the people to be somewhere within the area of where they have their headquarters and so on, which is absolutely atrocious, again, for the economy and for the businesses and for the people, right? So everybody loses, but it is what it is.
If you've made it to this part of the video, then thank you for staying. Thank you for staying tuned.
Yep, as I always say, go show him some love. I'm gonna put a link in the description for his video, so you can go see it, view it for yourself, and you know, hit a like, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Almost 16 minutes now in this video. I am leaving the UK soon. I'm quitting my job. I appreciate the good things about this country. I really do.
That's why we're here.
But
some of us
the way
still
I
want to
see
stay
it,
here.
This country is not getting better. Everything's getting more expensive. The government does not care about people at all in this country. They do not care about the rising electric bills.
That's absolutely true. That's one of the biggest problems right now. They just don't care about the common folk. Something really bad has happened in the leadership of this country over the past decade or so. They just seem to continuously be failing the people, and they seem to be staying focused on things that bring no value, not to this country and not to its people.
The rising gas bills, they're probably going to increase the tax and national insurance pretty soon. They're reducing benefits that people need, not that people want, but there are people in this country that seriously need these benefits, and they're being stripped away.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, another thing that of course is no one's fault, but the UK doesn't exactly have the best weather. And that's quite a big thing for
Here
me.
we go.
So when you look outside,
The weather is glorious
grey,
here.
thick sky, and it's cold and it's wet.
Yep, all the time.
doesn't really make you feel happy.
You walk out of the house through a blanket of water. That's the situation most of the year. Right? It's autumn all year long. I can't really say there's winter here because where I come from, winters mean minus 20 degrees Celsius, snow up to your waist. So this country doesn't have that kind of a winter. But because it's autumn almost the entire year, it does wear you down. It literally wears down both your mind and your physique and everything else. I think probably 90% of the people living in this country have a vitamin D deficiency. Not to mention that the doctors and NHS don't even seem to understand this as being a problem.
And if I'm going to live in an expensive country, the weather better be nice.
Glorious, as I say.
Seriously, I'm not going to settle for living
This
in an
is the
expensive
ending
country
joke,
where
right?
the weather is shit most of the year. So,
If at least the weather would be on our side, we'd be happy.
if you want to follow my channel and see where I go,
So you guys go do
then
that. Absolutely,
hit the
he's
subscribe
absolutely
button.
right.
like this video if you enjoyed it, if it entertained you. But if you are also living in the UK and working in the UK, comment what you think of what it's like,
Yeah,
and
hit that comment section.
we
You know
all
what I
got
mean?
to just stay strong.
Opinions are welcome.
But I
Let's
don't
hear
want
everybody
to
out.
just keep surviving in this country. I'm not working to survive. I want to live to thrive.
That's wishful thinking
And
there, bro.
only you can save yourself. Think about that.
And if you are solo, yeah, you should most definitely think like that. But when you have a family with you, when you have little ones, it's not that easy to just bounce. It's just not that easy. Just think about it. If you can't save money here, what are you going to make all of these changes and the move and all of that? Because it costs you money. Even moving from one location in the UK to another costs you money. Renting a different house costs you a lot of money. Money that you need to pay upfront. Everything needs to be paid upfront. Right? You don't live your life upfront, do you? You live it as you go, but you don't pay as you go. You have to pay upfront for everything. The cost of just moving your furniture couple of miles or 100 miles from where you are can be anywhere in the upwards of, I don't know, 400, 700 pounds, right? Just to move your stuff from one house to another. Renting another house usually costs you the monthly rent plus like another 50% or something. So it costs you money up front just to reserve that house, and then you also have to pay the month's rent for that house, right? And if you put that all together, it's about 2,500 pounds, so 2,500 pounds just to make a move within the country, not to move somewhere else, right? Which is exorbitant. Because that's probably the only reason I'm still here in this house, because otherwise I would have moved back closer to a bigger city where I can find work easier, faster, right? Because I don't mind. For me, working in a warehouse, or working on a factory production line, or working in an office, for me it's the same thing. I can perform and outperform most people at any of these jobs. Just think about my previous role where the contract was supposed to be 6 months. After 2 years, I quit because they disrespected me. They've changed my role without even asking me if I can do it, if I'm willing to do it. So, yeah. And that's the reality of what happens around here. Complete and total disregard for you. You're just a product. But then you go. There you go. You've heard Daryl here. He told you his side. You've heard some arguments from me. The situation is not the best, but you can leave your opinions in the comments. You can share some of your experience here with me, with us, and I'll see you there. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.